Hey everybody, this is Hector Mirai with the Faith and Fandom Artists Alley Aftermath podcast. This is for RoComicon, which is Rockingham County Comic Con, I believe. It took place at New Lebanon Church in Reidesville, North Carolina on November 22nd, 2025. Few upfront thoughts and disclaimers on these things. This was a church Comic-Con, which I have now been a part of 5 church-based Comic-Cons that I'm aware of. My memory might fail. 2 of those I ran, and so that's my own, perspective on things. 2 of them were at a Lutheran church in Wilson, North Carolina, that Zach Harris ran, and then this one. I was approached back in June, I think was the earliest I remember getting approached about this, and I was asked at Heroes Con if I would be willing to be a part of this. And y'all, anytime a church is making an effort to actually reach the geek community, I think we should, appreciate that. So when I got asked in Heroes Con in June, I checked my calendar. That date was free and said, sure. And, followed up throughout the year. And it was one of those situations where, again, because it is a church thing, you don't know how many things are going to come up. Pastoral changes, life, ministry, all those things. And so I just said yes to it. Other cons came up. I was also asked to DJ weddings and different things like that, but I was like, you know what? I said we're in this, so we're in this. Somewhere along the way, I also recommended Ashley for Fangirling Over Jesus to be a part of it. And I was glad that she was, but the show also was boasting some good local artists as well, people that are in the comic community, people who have done professional stuff. So I was like, you know what? It's a good time. Now, the one thing I'll say is it's far away. Now it's just over or just at 3 hours, roughly, maybe a little bit more. It's kind of north of Winston-Salem, but almost to the Virginia border, kind of like if you're going to Danville, Virginia. And as I was heading to the show, I got off the interstate, and then I'm not kidding. This was like mile after mile of nothing. I'm talking no gas stations. This is how you know. It was deep enough in the woods that I didn't see a Dollar General between the interstate and the show. That's how deep in the woods it was. Not a Dollar General, not a Family Dollar, nothing. There was one gas station / combo store that definitely didn't look like it was part of the century in Bethany, North Carolina, which was technically also kind of right where the show was. But yeah, it was out there. And that was my one thought when I was driving in. I was like, who lives near here that they're coming to here? Because a lot of times, a con will pull based just solely on its community and immediate nearby surroundings. And I'm like, if you're just bringing what's nearby, you're bringing deer and tractors, because there's nothing else out here. But that's just, North Carolina is spread out, and it's diverse, and it's farm based, and all these different things. So as I was pulling up to the show, maybe about a mile or 2 out, I saw a banner on a corner that had the actual poster, and which the poster had me and Marshall Lakes and a couple other people on it. And I've said for a long time, and it's a joke with some of my friends and community, that I know I should not be on a poster for anything. Now maybe a church Comic-Con, because that tracks. That's kind of in the wheelhouse. But the general rule is, if I have to be on your flyer, you haven't put a good show together. And I'm saying this for secular Comic-Cons. If your best attraction or your most accomplished thing at a secular Comic-Con is the guy who makes nerdy Bible studies, and that's what you're advertising, I don't know if you're doing a good job. If you're advertising it, the guy who was on Swamp Thing for 18 seconds, maybe, because I've seen other people on posters for less. Or if it's a screenwriter for Clever or Fandom Entertainment, maybe, because I did a lot of good nerd stuff there. But just for the, but for a church Comic-Con, it tracks that I would be on the flyer, and I appreciated that. But I saw the banner, and I took a picture of it out by the road and headed on in. And the first thing I did when I pulled in the church parking lot was just kind of like have a moment of despair, honestly, because the only entrance that I saw up front was a downward slope on gravel to get to the sidewalk. And there were cars kind of unloading and everything. And I'm like, this is going to be a long time. But then the showrunner came out and he's like, oh yeah, just pull around. There's easier access. And that was my fault because I didn't look. I stopped at the first door that I came to, and lo and behold, it was not the best option for doors. But yeah, I pulled up right beside Ashley from Fangirling Over Jesus, and we talked and greeted and started the unloading process. And they had me in the church fellowship hall / lobby area. The show took place in the gym and in the fellowship hall / lobby. And so I was set up the table right before the door to go into the gym. So technically, I think you were supposed to walk by me to get in, as well as a dude who did watercolors. He did really good watercolors, by the way. I think his name was Will. And he did really good watercolor art. But there's a lot of other artists I knew there. Kingdom Geeks was there. There were some different just general vendors. There were 4 or 5 local comic book artists, and the local comic book artists, and I mean this was zero shade, all rolled in by the skin of their teeth. Like, they didn't come in early. And if you don't have a ton of merch and stuff, I get it. If you're just rolling in with a banner and a portfolio, cool. But like, all of them rolled in about the same time, like 5 minutes before the show. But yeah, and directly across from me was William Thomas Bowyer, who does the Bible Man comics. And so it was Marshall, William, and a few other folks that were there. But yeah, it wasn't a bad show. If I had paid $5 to come to this event, I wouldn't have felt like my money was wasted at all. I would have felt like, there's definitely $5 worth of art, merch, and things of that nature with that. As I was getting set up and talking to folks, I was having a good time with that. One of the nice things is that they did have concessions, and I really greatly appreciate that for church shows, because it means you've got, you're not going to be struggle busing in that capacity. And they had hot dogs and chips, drinks, coffee, and somebody made some apple pastries. But on top of the concessions all going to like church donations, they also did it where all of the artists at least got a free meal ticket. And basically all the food was kind of free for the artists, which was nice to be able to go and grab that. And just getting coffee on a regular basis was good. But I'll say this, the marketing and advertising within the church, like the banners, the flyers, the things like that, I don't think you could have done better. And coming from seeing other people do it and from doing it myself, there was definitely more time and effort and production put into banners and advertisement for this show than I put into my own shows. So the work was definitely done there. And they had a ton of good volunteers. The 2 cons that I ran at my church location, I definitely didn't have more than 5 or 6 volunteers to run the whole thing. Yeah, probably 5 or 6 for both shows together, all together per show, maybe 5 or 6 people. It felt like they had a solid 14 or 15 church volunteers dedicated to making this happen. They had a stage and chairs set up for like a church service time. They put a lot of good effort and work into it. Now, I'm going to just say some stuff in terms of like attendance and things like that, because here's the deal. This is a podcast just discussing how shows went. And that means discussing how things go, not just, glossing over everything. I know this did not have the attendance that they wanted. And the reality is, you never know. I've seen shows, even professional shows, advertise their brains out, do all the things, and do all the stuff they could have done, and still not get the community involved, depending on what's going on in the community. And like, they put videos out. There are videos on their socials. There are a couple of the videos. There's like, I think it was one of the first ones with, had a dude in Spider-Man, which I think was Will, the watercolor dude. The videos got like 7,000 views. I've not gotten 7,000 views on any of the videos I'm doing promoting stuff. And so the work was done, and again, the attendance was definitely not, I think, what they wanted. And it was kind of easy to see that some of the leaders were discouraged and with that. But again, there's only so much you can do. And I mentioned this a little bit in the Geek Church service, and I'll say it here as well, that it's the deal with Isaiah, that where God said, who will go for me and who can I send? And Isaiah says, I'll go, send me. But then God says, you're going to go, but they're not going to listen. And I take a good bit of comfort and heart from that, is that the success of something is based in your faithfulness to follow through with it, not in the results that follow. So if God told you to do something and you do it, then whatever happens is, arbitrary. God told Isaiah to go and preach a message that nobody was going to listen to. By human standards, Isaiah would have failed, but by God's standards, it was a little bit different. But it was a good time. I had a good show personally. There's a really nice lake and park. I think it was Lake Brant Park was near there, which was pretty cool. And like right out the gate, Mrs. Boyer, I'm sorry, I'm flubbing the name, but Bible Man's creator's wife was, one of the first people who was over at the booth, and she was really interested in book 6 and trying to find something for him. And it turns out I only had one copy of book 6, because when somebody came by and they actually bought book 6, that was the one book that she wanted. But the VeggieTales stickers were a hit. Obviously, at a church show, you kind of expect that. But I definitely, and I said this the last couple events, I am so out of Darth Vader shirts, and it's hitting me hard that I don't have them, because that's a lot of what people are asking for. At one point in time, one of the vendors came and bought a copy of book 5 as a gift for someone, and then had me autograph it. And then the spouse of that person showed up at the booth a little while later, asking to return the book in exchange for another one, because there was a nick on the book. And I'm just like, I just sold you this and autographed it. But that's cool. I mean, it's not like autographing a book takes away from its value. But I was just like, okie dokie. It was just weird. I'd never had anybody ask to return an autographed book at the same show. They did just get another book, but still, it was you could see my face visibly confused for a minute as I processed. At some point, got lunch. Got 2 hot dogs all the way, and some chips and drinks and stuff like that. And it was good. Also, when I got to the parking lot, I can't remember if she did this before or after, like the show started. But at one point, Ashley and I were in the parking lot from fangirling over Jesus, and I think it might have been before. And we were just talking about things, and she took a Ahsoka Never Give Up Hope magnet off the side of her car and slapped it on mine. And honestly, I found that to be a big encouragement. I needed it that day. I needed it all the days that followed. Also, I'd like to say I'm greatly appreciative that my car made the about 6 hours of travel to do this show with it. Geek Church time came up, and I had a message that I had planned, and I was talking about Isaiah, and well, no, I was talking about the fact that God uses the things we're connected with to reach people. You know, that He talked about fishing to the fishermen, that God used sheep in the conversation to rebuke David for his actions because he connected with sheep and cared more about sheep than people, and that Paul used the unknown God to reach his people. So that was kind of the Geek Church message. And I think I actually videoed it on my phone, and maybe I'll load that too as well when I put this up. But I loaded the Geek Church message, or sorry, I did the message, but then about a few minutes into the message, I also just kind of stopped and shifted gears for a bit to address like the discouragement I felt in the room for the folks that were, you know, definitely feeling the discouragement of attendance or how things were going. And I talked about the Isaiah thing that I just mentioned. And yeah, so did that, had that conversation, and yeah, it looks like I've got the file for Geek Church on here, so I'll work on editing that too. But yeah, I mean, it was a good experience. I drew some stuff that I've been wanting to draw, like somebody had me draw a commission. Oh, they had me Vladimir Koloff. They had me do a Vladimir Koloff, and then somebody also had me do a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends with Gwen and Miles and Peter. And then I did Octopops from Naruto just because I wanted to, and it's just one I've been wanting to do for a while. But yeah, it was a good setup. I mean, I thought it was a good experience, and crazy enough, like, I know the attendance wasn't everything they wanted it to be, and I know it was, you know, it might have felt like a discouragement or things like that, and I actually had a good show, like, in terms of financially and everything, which is just, not always what you expect. But, like, the Bowyers bought a shirt and 2 comics, and I sold some different stuff. Like, I feel like I had a solid show. Maybe even some more so for shows than I've done other times recently. For a one-day show, it was definitely better than some of the other shows I've done recently, just to say that. Ashley and I also talked about a ministry opportunity that she's got in California, and we kind of discussed that a little bit. And their volunteers also helped me lift my tubs and everything so that I wasn't doing further damage to my back and spine and things of that nature. So I did appreciate that. And then I helped Ashley load her stuff. Well, she's got some cool hats now that she's like wood burning and stuff too. Marshall Lakes also let me check out his new comic, and was able just to, I enjoyed my day. I had a solid day. It ran from 11 to 5. And I drove into town and got some food, and then, hung out with my daughter, and it was a solid experience overall. I didn't have any complaints. This was also a show, though, I don't think that I met anybody I hadn't met that wasn't already associated with the show. There were a couple good cosplayers. They had some really good auctions and stuff going on, but I feel like it was a solid day. And I know that if you're the showrunner, there's a lot of responsibility for you to feel like you need a lot of attendance, things like that. But I think it was a good experience. I felt like, and one of the things I really enjoyed was on the banner that was hanging up on their show. It says Comics for Rockingham County. But it says Experiencing God's Love Through Geek Fellowship. And you know what? I feel like if that's your goal, then you succeeded really well. If that's your goal, you did good. And I do genuinely believe that the folks who ran it put their best effort in. And, I hope that if they continue again, I told them, if y'all do this again, I'll show back up as long as schedules permit. And we'll make sure we get it done. But Jarrett McBride is the guy who was over it, and the guy who put all the work into it. And so Jarrett, I think, did an outstanding job of organizing this. And genuinely, like, I feel like if you would have done this show in a city environment or more of a non-rural environment, with the amount of effort that he put in, I think there would have been a much drastic difference in turnout. And I just think, it's percentages of the people invited versus people that come and how many people are around. But I do think that it was a good opportunity. I think it was a good show, and I'm grateful to have been a part of it. And I accidentally called Jared in the middle of recording that. That's my bad. I hit the button. But yeah, it was good. So this was my last show for the year. When I got back to the house, I went ahead and brought in the devotional journals, which, by the way, this was the first show with the devotional journals because they came in early. And I went ahead and packaged up devotional journals for Patreon supporters, as well as some stickers and stuff. And so it's kind of like a good time for me to take a breath and recoup for the year. But before I go, I just want to take a moment to thank my Patreon supporters and for being a part of this, for being all the help that you are. And because I definitely realize in doing what I'm doing that I can't do it. And I'm accidentally playing Naruto or something. Hold on. Okay. I definitely realize I can't do what I do without God's grace through y'all's help. So Jess Luttrell from Fingirling for Cosplay for Christ, Jackie Kraft, Kelly Townsend, Alan Wallace, Fab Quack, Rivka and Tristan Birch, Dorothy Martin Winston, Michelle Stewart, Miss Lynn Turner, David Brooks, Jeff Weimer, Colin Sproles, Jamie Montgomery, the Coleman family, Jonathan Herman, Ron Petit, Gear Saber Cosplay, Scott Ward, Alicia Glenn, Jay Sheed, Jason Crutchfield, Mike Perna, Todd Turner, John Jacobs, Zach Harris, Caleb Grimm, Jeanette Skaggs, Jason Bullock, Christina Ray, Sarah Lewis, Rebecca Godlove, Patrick Gale, and Adam Davis. Thank you all for your incredible encouragement and support. I genuinely appreciate you all. And to Jarrett and the folks in New Lebanon, congratulations on doing such a great job with your show. And I didn't say this in the message to them either, but one of the things that I always take away especially from Rookie Starts for Things, is a verse that includes the words "Zerubbabel," but there's this verse that was talking about rebuilding the wall in Jerusalem. I'm going to pull up this verse so I can say it properly. Spies. There's a verse that talks about God being good with small starts. It's in Zechariah 4:10. And it says, "Do not despise these small beginnings. The Lord rejoices to see the work begin." And then the next line is like, "to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand." Now, if that doesn't mean anything to you, that part's okay. But God does not despise small beginnings. He likes to see the work beginning. And the thing is, we've got to be able to follow through with what he calls us to do in obedience, even if it includes small beginnings. But I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you all at a con reel soon.